Hi guys, it's Kaylee again. In today's chapter, we're going over Wonderbox menus, so stay tuned. In today's video, we're going over the back menus on the Wonderbox and how to navigate through them and what the different options mean. So to get to the back menu and change your interface or set it to fair mode, which is going to be demo mode, we're going to move this number one dip switch to the up position. So while we have that number one dip switch in the up position, we're going to power on our Wonderbox, and it's going to power up and go straight into that menu. So first we have fair mode. This is demo mode. You can turn it on or off. If you have it on, it's going to give you pulses when you do not have a pulser hooked up. This is for showing customers demos and being able to create transactions on the box. Factory reset, obviously just what it says. If you need to clear a box out completely, you'll hit enter there. It'll prompt you through resetting the entire box back to factory. Serial number, this is the serial number on the board. Unless for some reason you're connecting it to the cloud and you've already connected it to another account and then you're moving it to a customer, you shouldn't really need to change this number. So we can just leave that alone. Interface, here's where you're selecting how your box communicates. There's USB, CMR, LAN, WLAN. If you get a box from us, it's going to come already configured to what we have installed in it. And then we just have some internal options in here that you're not really needing to get into. So if we hit exit to get out of this menu, it's going to tell us to switch the number one off. We don't have to power down the unit. You just reach back there and turn off the switch. So now we're going to boot up our Wonderbox, and it's going to go to our main menus here once we get into them. Alright, so to get into the menu on the Wonderbox, you're going to hit the number 9 5 times. You're going to hit enter. It's going to take you into the menus. So the first menu that we have is refueling data. So if we hit enter on that, we have a show refuel. This is where you can scroll through all of your refuelings manually on the box. Now, if you need to restore your refuelings, you can scroll up to number 1, hit enter. It'll ask you if you want to recover them, hit enter again. All this does is make it so you can pull all of the transactions onto the stick. So this is if you're missing any transactions in your software. Reset refuel, so what this does is it takes the refuelings and it starts counting over at 1. So each refueling has an individual fueling number, and this starts over those fueling numbers. Number of refuels, this is how many refuels that you've done on the box so far and what percentage of the storage has been used. And then USB report. So this is only if you're in the field and you do not have access to the software. This will pull a report in PDF form onto the stick. So there's no importing transactions into the software or anything like that. This just pulls a straight report to the stick. It's more for techs in the field to make sure the transactions are coming through and they're looking okay and everything like that. So whenever you're doing your normal import of transactions, you do not need to go in this menu. You'll just plug the stick straight into the side of the box, into the USB port, and it'll download your transactions. This is a whole separate report. So if we hit exit one time, now we're going to go to the total data menu. So what this is it's just different totals. It's going to tell you all drivers. You can scroll through to specific drivers and see how much they've got during the life of the box. You can also reset that for drivers. There's an option for vehicles as well, a display and a reset. And so that's all we've got in there is just looking at the totals. So this is for the techs in the field that are needing to see, how much a vehicle's got, or if access to the software isn't available, you can go into the box and see it there. So now if we go down to the next menu, we have ident codes. So this menu, it's going to get updated by your software, whether you're using the cloud or the HD manager. All the settings that you have in there, they're going to automatically go into this menu. So we went into driver. This is going to give us all 2,000 drivers, so we're able to scroll through manually and see that the drivers are in there, see what their codes are. This is beneficial for you guys. If you're needing to fuel, out of the box, you don't have a code, no one's there, we can actually go into the menu and get a code out of the box to use for testing. You can also scroll through and lock a driver and look at the PIN, all the settings that are going to be in your cloud platform. But if you don't have access to that at the moment and you're needing to lock somebody out, you can go into this menu and do so. Same thing with the vehicles. It's going to list the vehicles. An important one here is you do have your miles in each of these vehicles. So if you're using the forced mileage setting, this is where you would go to reset those miles. If they typed in the wrong mileage and you have that parameter set up that they, are using that forced mileage, this is where you're going to go in and reset their miles. So you would hit enter, you would erase the mileage they put in, and you would put the correct mileage and hit enter, and then it would allow it to reset. All right, and then we have where our master code is located. This is the 5 9s to get in the box. If you're concerned that people on site know how to get into this menu, you can go in and actually change the master code. And then there's also a USB report code. This is gonna make a code. So if anybody tries to pull a USB report out of this box, they're gonna have to enter a code in to do so. So no one can just walk up, plug a USB in and get a report out of your box. So if we hit exit one time, we're gonna go to menu system. So the first option under menu system is refuel options. This is where you're gonna set all your queries for the box. So first we have identification. We have driver, vehicle, both, and none. So you'll pick which one of those the customer would like. And then we have mileage. We've got inquire, force mode 1, and do not inquire. So do not inquire, obviously not gonna ask for mileage. Inquire is gonna ask for mileage. And force mode 1 is going to be your forced mileage, where they have to go that 1 additional mile from the last mileage that they entered. Previous mileage, you can turn that on or off. What this is gonna do is show the previous mileage while they're entering the mileage. Order number, this is a free field, so nothing is referenced in the software anywhere. You can turn this on or off, inquire, do not inquire. They're able to put a specific number. This is also useful for rental companies, people that have a lot of assets and they're not necessarily wanting to enter all those assets into the system. A lot of people use, last 4 of the VIN, something like that, or a stock number. And then we have the nozzle switch settings. So the Wonderbox comes default set to no nozzle switch. So if you have a nozzle switch, you need to make sure you go in here and set this to yes. If it is set to yes, and you do not have a nozzle switch, what's gonna happen is you're gonna start the transaction and the pump is not gonna come on. So that's usually the first thing that we check, is we go in here and we check that the nozzle switch is set to yes or no, depending on if we have a switch or not. Refuel limit, this is how many gallons they're allowed to get. This is also gonna be in the software, and it will transfer over with the USB stick or Wi-Fi or LAN, cloud, however you're set up. And then the max refuel time, this is how much they have to get that limit. The timeout refuel is how long your pump is going to run without seeing pulses. So this is when the fluid stops flowing through the pulser. This is how long they have before the transaction is going to time out. All right, so that's all for the refuel options. We're going to scroll down now to dispense point. So under menu dispense point, product number is going to reference in your software. Normally it's product 1 on a Wonderbox because there's only one product. Pulses per gallon, this is where you're going to use to calibrate. So if you have a meter, a fill rate 900, something like that, you're going to change that to 10 to 1. It's just going to depend on which pulse meter you have. This is where you're going to be setting that pulses per gallon option. It does come default 204.22, which is for our FMOG 100 with no display. Post decimals, this is how many decimals it's going to show when it's counting the gallons. So you have the option of 0, 1, and 2. Automatic lock, this is going to lock out the entire dispenser. So if you're doing maintenance or something like that, someone drove off with the hose, you want to make sure nobody's getting fuel, then we need to turn this on. Anybody walks up to the box, it's just going to automatically say automatic lock, and no one will be able to get fuel. Device address, This really isn't important. It comes from the software. It's just gonna take whatever you have put in the software. Then we have a max 0 dispense. So this is normally set to 0. It depends. So what this feature is mainly used for is if your pulser goes out for some reason and you don't know, it may be 2 weeks before you go pull your transactions. So if we set a max 0 dispense to 3, when it hits 3 transactions that someone got to the point of refueling and did not fuel any product, it's going to go send the box into automatic lock automatically. So you can set this to whatever you'd like. A lot of people set it to like 9 or 10. Some people don't set it at all. It's up to you. But if you see that your box randomly went to automatic lock, you may want to go into the menu and check this setting here, because there's no way to get it out unless you go in and reset your max 0 dispense. So that's it for the dispense point. Then we're gonna go to extended. We have the date and time. So if you go into the date and time, you're able to update the date and time on your box. Contrast LCD, this is going to adjust the contrast on the screen. So a lot of times that these are in direct sunlight for an extended period of time, and you know, it's getting harder to see the screen, you can hit enter here and adjust the contrast up or down, and you'll be able to see the screen again. Language, this is not commonly used. You can go in here and adjust the language. You can adjust the language from the USB if you need to, if it's coming from a different translated computer. Initialization, what this is going to do is this is going to clear your box. So if you hit enter again here, it's going to clear everything out of your box. Info config, this is internal, we're not really going to use that. Activation, same thing. Communication pin, this is going to be, it's set default in the background to 5 nines. If you need to change that for some reason, it's really if you're on Wi-Fi or LAN, it's communicating with the software, it's using that pin to kind of get into the system. And then USB pin as well. This will prompt for them to put in a pin anytime they're pulling transactions or adding drivers and vehicles, so that the box knows that it's authorized to do that. Now we have transponder ID. So if you hit enter on transponder ID and you're needing to program key fobs, you can just wave a key fob over there saying unknown. If it was assigned to someone, it would say who it was assigned to, and it's giving you the code for this transponder. So if you don't get a reader for these and you have to go out to the box and get this number manually, this is what needs to be entered into the software for this particular key fob. All right, and that concludes the video on the Wonderbox menus.